Hey, if you're into sports, you will recognize the highly regarded Roy Simmons. Let me tell you about Roy.
1992, The Phil Donahue Show. Roy Simmons had a major announcement.
I don't think we knew the repercussions that were going to come after that.
And he comes here today to tell you that he is now and always has been gay.
My friends were like in shock. Roy, you must have went out and and just got toasted and you got a major hangover.
This was not just any man revealing sexual secrets on national television. Roy had been the epitome of macho, a 290-pound offensive lineman in the NFL, whose career ended much too early. He had a bright future from the start, signing a commitment to play with Georgia Tech. The ideal physique for football, big and strong, lots of speed. He was drafted by the New York Giants in 1979. But off the field, he had a secret. He was having sex with men. It was a well-kept secret, but ultimately the double life affected his on-field performance. The Giants got rid of Simmons.
I was in shock. It really hurt me that I was released. It really, really did.
Roy caught a break. The Washington Redskins took a chance on him. And that same year, the Skins made it to the Super Bowl, but lost to the Raiders by nearly 30 points. Didn't matter much to Roy. He had other things to worry about. Among the special guests Roy had brought with him to the Super Bowl were multiple lovers, 2 females and 1 male. By this point, Roy was drinking heavily and snorting cocaine. But he didn't last long with the Redskins. They didn't want him either. Hard to feel sorry for Roy. His wounds were self-inflicted, except for one. As a little boy, Roy did odd jobs around town. A woman asked him to clean her house while she was out. However, her husband stayed home.
He had some cocktails. He'd been drinking. Eventually, he called me into the room and he turned me around and basically, he did what he wanted to do.
That was the first big secret in Roy's life, and it had a profound impact. After the Redskins dumped him, his NFL career was over. He had a quick stint in the second-tier USFL, but he became a broke, washed-up athlete with a drug addiction and a secret sex life. In 1990, he headed west.
I'd heard about, San Francisco, the gay life and the gay capital. It's kind of crazy, but it's like, well, since you're in it, then go all the way.
And that he did. He drank, did drugs. Some nights, he even slept on the street.
Roy, am I correct? It got so bad when you were in San Francisco that you were actually prostituting yourself just to keep up your drug habit?
Yep. Something I thought I'd never do. So, I always said, things that I would never do. And I kind of caught myself with that. By any means, did what I had to do to get my drugs. I shoplifted and I prostituted. Basically. I think through the years that, there was a lot of confusion, brought about in my life, due to the rape. And it led me in areas that I cared not to go, but I went there.
Did you feel like God wouldn't accept you where you were at?
You are correct, because when you're out in sin, you really feel like you're cutting yourself off. You're ashamed that, oh, look what I'm doing, and I can't come to him like this here. I can't go to God and in prayer or whatever.
He surfaced briefly, making his appearance on Donahue. A few years later, a doctor gave him a grim diagnosis.
He called me in, and he gave me the results, and my knees buckled. He told me that my test came back positive, and I guess the initial thought is, I'm going to die. I've known people, some live a month and they were gone.
He was HIV positive.
Roy Simmons was hopeless and essentially just waiting around to die. But he made a desperate call to his best friend, Jimmy Hester.
and as a result, moved here to Martha's Vineyard, where a remarkable physical and spiritual cleansing has taken place. Jimmy Hester is also HIV positive. He went to the Martha's Vineyard Holistic Retreat because of his HIV. He's made great strides with his physical health, but he also found something he never expected, a relationship with Jesus Christ. That relationship started soon after a Bible study invitation by his doctor, Ronnie DeLuce. And now Roy is also meeting with Dr. Ronnie, and he's feeling great. But it's his spiritual recovery that has had the biggest impact. He was recently baptized. His pastor, Marcia Buckley.
Roy is hungry for God. He loves God. One thing he appreciates is the fact that he's alive in the Lord and that God has given him a chance to live.
We, spoke on and learned about, homosexuality and I guess connotations and everything that goes along with it, and it's really, against God's will.
Roy Simmons is now fully devoted to the Lord and to purity, and is no longer sexually active.
All that lying and cheating and all that backbiting and all that deceitfulness, I don't practice that.
He is eager to study the Word of God and grow closer to the Lord.
Thank God for Jesus, him, dying for my sins, and on a daily basis I can go, I can go to him in prayer and just put it out there and being honest about it, coming into the fold, just coming to the knowledge of God and just how wonderful and great he is and powerful, and feel, the love of Jesus. It's a beautiful feeling. Whew. And I know he watches over me.